And here we are. Hey there, welcome back. It is us with your weekly comic book breakdown. We've got a really short episode this week, but we're gonna go ahead and do our traditional introductions. My name is Matt. I'm your host here, just kind of chilling and giving you guys a feed of everything going on in the X-Men universe and all that kind of stuff. And we also have Kelly. Kelly, go ahead and say hi.
Hey, what's up?
And Travis as well.
Oh,
Devin wasn't able... No, yeah, you're good. And Devin wasn't able to make it this week, but he'll probably give us a rundown of what he covered next week. Oh, wait a minute. Technical difficulties. They might not be able to hear you. Let me fix something real quick. We're such amateurs. Well, while I'm fixing a little technical thing so that you guys can actually hear my co-hosts, I'll go ahead and say the regular deal. You can go ahead and subscribe if you'd like to get those alerts that we are broadcasting. You can comment on the live chat in the middle of the stream, and we will be listening in. I could respond to you. I might even answer questions if we see questions. And finally, you can hear from my co-hosts, Kelly and Travis. Y'all want to go ahead and say hello?
Hey guys, how's it going? Hello!
And if you hear the little mumblings under me, that's my son is actually hanging out with us today. So pardon if you hear babbling beside us. So, we've got a real short episode, only 5 comic books that we're covering this week. But yeah, we should be able to get through them pretty quickly and still have a good time. Are y'all ready to jump right in?
I sure am.
Let's do it.
Cool. All right, well, I'll go ahead and begin this week. As always, I start with my main series, X-Men title, and XMen Gold is back. If you guys remember, 2 weeks ago, whenever we had the last issue of XMen Gold, they were under attack by this new kind of Sentinel that it was made of nanobots, tons of little miniature robots flying all over the place, transforming and adapting, kind of like the Borg.
Right.
But the cover is really interesting. It shows sort of an evolution of the Sentinel over the years. You have the traditional Sentinel, real tall, and then these smaller ones. And that one at the very end, stepping on Kitty on the cover, that's actually the one from this title.
Okay.
So this title begins, one of the things that happened in last week's book that didn't seem like that big of a deal was that Rachel Gray got knocked out of the fight. Rachel Gray is the character Prestige. But what it turned out to be a really big deal during this book because she's knocked out in a coma, like off in the middle of nowhere, and Liam's chattering in the back. And the whole comic book is a back and forth. You get like some panels of her psyche and what's going on, but then the other half is this huge battle in New York. And it's more than just the X-Men. This book is chocked full of cameos, and they're not all mutants. Deadpool pops up in one of the first panels. Squirrel Girl is there. You get Totally Awesome Hulk. You get Miss Marvel. There are tons of cameos, and they're not speaking parts. It just shows them because all of New York is under attack. This is all those little.
Are there any
nanobots.
spiders?
What's that?
I asked if there were any spiders.
I don't remember seeing any, but I could have just missed it.
Okay.
Let's see. Daredevil's in there. I could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
But you guys get it. So yeah, all of these nanobots are attacking all of New York, and everybody's pitching in to help. And all the while, Rachel Gray is having this kind of mental moment where she's getting flashbacks of all of her family members. Jean Grey pops up and tells her, like, you know, you might be worried about what you might become, and they make some references to maybe some Phoenix interaction, but not really, because it's more just that Rachel's just super powerful. She sees Scott, she sees Nathan, a couple of other powerful psychics in there. And ultimately, what happens in the end of the book is that she does wake up out of this coma and immediately just snaps to and says, I know how to beat this Sentinel thing. She sends some huge, crazy psychic attack, and you see explosions all over New York City, and she's defeated all of these nanobots.
Cool.
There's a little bit of closure, everybody checking, like, Rachel, are you okay? And she's got her eyes glazed over and reflections of everyone in New York, and it's kind of a weird moment. But at the end of it all, there is the last page is these panels zooming in. It's actually another cameo of Molly Hayes, who, shout out, that's one of the Runaways, another one of my favorite groups. But
Which one was that?
She's the little girl who's super duper strong.
Okay.
She actually is a mutant. But it's just a cameo, her standing over this little cracked thing, and it zooms in at her feet, and you see the tiny little head of a Sentinel. So Rachel might not have gotten them all. Yeah, but it's silly. The one thing I skipped is somewhere in the middle there, Gambit has a moment that he's kind of being a little remorseful about, like, he kind of caused all of this, because if you remember, he stole the nanobots and accidentally let the nanobots get out, and they got on the Sentinel program, so he feels kind of guilty, but Storm kind of helps him through that, so yeah. And it was a pretty quick read. Lots of battles, lots of cameos, and kind of introducing me to a character that I don't know incredibly well, because while I know Rachel and I've seen her in several books over the past couple of years, I don't know her very well. So, yeah.
Sounds interesting.
That was XMen Gold this week.
Cool.
The other X-Men title was Iceman #2. If y'all remember last time, Iceman, he was kind of having the whole internal dialogue about his newly found sexuality stuff. And
oh yeah, okay. I was just about to ask, what was the first one again?
Yeah, he was with his parents and everything, and he fought against that purifier. It was the whole overtone of the book was him posting something on that dating website.
Yes.
So this one begins, dismisses his class, he's running out because he's going on this mission. He talks about he doesn't know who he's going to be on the mission with, and when he gets to the X-Jet, it is Kitty Pryde, as the cover would lead you to believe, sitting in the jet, and it's going to be just the two of them on this mission, going grab this new kid who's been causing some problems because his powers just emerged. So, Bobby and Kitty actually dated for a little while. She was actually his last girlfriend before he came out. So,
Oops.
So, yeah, there's a little awkward moment where they talk about things, and she kind of brings up so when were you planning on telling me? Because I had to find out through other people. And he brought up that, it's not really about her. He hasn't even had time to tell his parents and all this crazy rigmarole. But conveniently, before they're able to finish their conversation, the X-Jet starts acting up and they start falling out of the sky. Bobby does this really cool trick. He jumps out. Oh wow, Liam's about to get loud. He jumps out of the plane and he uses his ice powers to cushion the fall of the jet and everything, and he stops them just before they crash. So cool little action moment in a very talky book. But so they find this new mutant kid. He's in an abandoned store, but there's like a mob trying to attack him. His powers are probably what screwed with the jet, because they seem to make technology malfunction and even mutants' powers malfunction. because when Bobby's trying to push the mob back a little bit, he accidentally creates this ginormous ice wall, and Kitty can't stop phasing through things and all sorts of commotion. So they run away from the mob, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do next. And and then they get back to their in the middle of all this commotion, they get back to their talk about like, why didn't you tell me and all of that. And Kitty just wants to make sure that Bobby knows that somebody is there for her if she needs it.
What?
At the end of the conversation, they come back out of it and they're like, okay, all right. And the kid all the while is like, could y'all talk about this later? There's like some people out there about to come and attack us. And Bobby's like, I have an idea. And he literally knocks this little kid out. But luckily, it stops his powers from interrupting their powers, so Kitty can, interact with objects again. She stops phasing through everything.
Uh.
But
on the cover art, is that a sword she's holding?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
okay.
She is slightly trained as a ninja, which they do make slight reference to in this book. But it's not an important detail. But yeah, she's carrying a oriental sword.
Okay.
So she goes off and look for a way out because remember the jet crashed, and he says he's going to take care of the mob. And the next scene is the mob breaking through the ice wall that he built, and he had prepared this huge army of these ice clones. This is a really cool power that Bobby's been working on recently, where he can kind of make these snowmen automatons that they don't necessarily think for themselves, but he can make an army of Icemen that do things for him. So they subdue the crowd because, they're good people. They're just freaking out because this mutant has been ruining all their technology. So,
they're all mad. They have to go out and buy more iPhones.
Yeah. Actually, somebody says like that he broke their phone. Somebody says they broke the TV. All that kind of stuff.
I knew it.
And then, so as he subdues them, Kitty comes back. She's driving this huge truck. She saves them, and they zip away and make this funny pun about like, okay, so we're just gonna send somebody else to get this giant technological jet that we left here. Okay, like they call out the point where why were they gonna leave the jet there? Silly point, but the final scenes, they're back at the school, and Kitty just reassures him like, hey, like we're here if you need to talk. Blah blah blah. She mentions that he probably should talk to someone, whether it's her or his parents or whatever. So the final scene is him walking off, asking his parents if he can come over to their house and have dinner. And he says something like, what? Why? How could this be a prank, Mom? Something like that. So it's funny, like everybody knows that he jokes too much, and she's afraid he might be joking about this.
Gotcha.
The cover of the next book has a picture of him and his parents on it, but he's being attacked by attacked by another purifier. So we probably get to see dinner with his parents next time. I don't know.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
remind me again. This comic is about time traveling.
No, this
old
one's
school
about-
Bobby or
This one's about
current
Bobby. Like present day old man Bobby. That
Okay.
kind of thing. It's not about the little young, time displaced mutant Bobby.
Yeah, because that guy's like a teenager, right? And this guy's like in his 30s or his 40s or something.
Yeah, they never really tell you how old he is because because technically he's like 60 years old because he was a teenager he's like 80 years old because he was a teenager in the 60s whenever the X-Men comics began. But
Gotcha.
That's not a 60 or 80-year-old on the cover of the book. So they're kind of hazy about how old he is, but he's an adult, whereas the time-displaced mutant is a teenager.
Yeah, I was just trying to remember which one that this was.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the older adult one.
Cool.
That's probably the easiest way to say it is teenager and adult.
Yeah.
All right, and like I said, short episode. That is all that I have. But Kelly has one book this week. You have Doctor Strange number 22. Could you remind us what was happening in the last one before this one? Because I remember being confused about some of the numbering.
Yes. So the previous issue, that was when we first started with the whole Secret Agent crossover. Is that what it's called? Secret Agent?
Secret Empire.
Secret Empire. That's where the whole Secret Empire started to cross over with Doctor Strange. So, a giant bubble had gone over Manhattan. Basically, to sum it up quickly, Wilson Fisk ends up coming in the end to reveal himself to sort of help destroy this giant monster that they'd been dedicating the majority of the book.
That's right, he drove that car through it, right?
Yes, he drove a car through a giant monster's, cranium that pretty much was the killing blow for it.
Gotcha.
So now that we know that Wilson Fisk is in the mix, basically where we end up going from there is he pretty much whisks them away to a secret underground tunnel, and Fisk is in the midst of explaining how money and the right connections will protect you from almost anything. Because while the entire I don't remember what it's actually called, but I'm going to call it Dark Manhattan because it's under the giant bubble.
Yeah. That's
so while the
a good name for it.
Yeah. So while the majority of Manhattan is under siege by these weird monsters and stuff, pretty much they're on this really exquisite looking golf cart going through an underground tunnel to a secret, safety house for himself. And he's collected Doctor Strange, Ben Ulrich, the reporter.
Yeah. Ben
Urich. Yes.
So that was him climbing
Spider-Woman.
That was him climbing the tower last time?
It was, yes.
Okay, cool.
They actually, at the introduction of this book, they gave me his name. So I was like, hey, not like a random person that we're referencing now.
Cool.
So it is him. And then Spider-Woman. So the four of them are making his way while Fisk explains how he has... Fisk knows that Doctor Strange no longer has his cape or his... Eye
of Agamotto.
Eye of Agamotto. I always forget Agamotto. And so he's like, well, I've got the hookup that'll be able to, basically, they've referenced her, she's just like a vague, dark, sorceress witch lady. And he's like, I know that she's got a boatload of resources that you can work with, so let's head on over. I've got a connection with her.
And they never named her?
And we're going to see what we can do. I believe, that was my watch.
Oh.
I believe, before they even make it to her, though, while they only reference it, it jump cuts to Captain America checking in with Gordo? Baron Mordo, not Gordo.
Mordo, yeah.
So Mordo, who's in charge of the whole Dark Manhattan right now. And he's like, how are things going? He's like, oh, things are great. I don't exactly know where Doctor Strange is, but it's cool. He's going to show himself. A guy with that much magic isn't going to hide for long. And basically, Captain America, he makes a reference to how he's not super excited to be leaving Manhattan in Mordo's control, but he makes a vague reference to the magician is a necessary evil, but he can be controlled. You'll see. So I guess they're not too worried about losing control over him because they must have something on him. It shows Mordo making a cup of coffee using Doctor Strange's mug. Daredevil is still sitting crisscross applesauce in this little orb prison. Then he's just kind of hanging out waiting. And in the meantime, Mordo decides, well, you know what? I don't want to wait for him to get captured. I want to watch it happen. So as he's a magician himself, he can just snap his fingers and he's created these weird camera biological things that are basically following Doctor Strange and the gang around, and they don't really know. They can't really notice it. They haven't noticed them yet. So they make it jump cut back to Fisk, Spider-Woman, Ben, and Doctor Strange. They call... Madam Mim is the name of this sorceress that they name. And I'm not sure if that's like supposed to be a joke in general, but that's the only name for her that they give.
Yeah,
And
that reminds me of the
the Sword in the Stone.
Yeah, the villain from the Disney Sword in the Stone movie.
Yes, I love her. She's one of my favorite Disney villains.
That's silly.
But basically, so Fisk knocks on her door, and she's like, no, I don't owe you anything anymore. You don't owe me anything anymore. And especially in the stage we're in right now, I'm out to protect myself. So they persist, and basically she ends up losing her temper and decides to, I guess, make a move and try to like get him to leave her alone. So she decides, to start doing this crazy transforming stuff into like a giant fire tiger. And one thing that I've noticed, so in this fight, it's mostly Doctor Strange and Mim fighting each other. And one thing I've noticed that when Doctor Strange is either in the middle of a fight or in the previous issue when he was making that witch's brew, he does a lot of narration like while he's fighting. And I really like how he kind of picks apart the way that she likes to fight in terms of, he mentions that when someone gets into a fight, they'll either immediately back down or show everything they have all at once.
So
basically,
when you say narration, is that
internal monologue?
The internal monologue. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. No. Yeah. I was wondering if you meant like him thinking it or him saying it out loud. Was he monologuing? Was he?
It's like an internal monologue.
Yeah,
he's not.
It's in
saying,
the squares, not
he's
the
not
speech
just saying
bubbles.
everything he thinks, just sitting there.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just checking.
So they go tit for tat, like she becomes a fire tiger and then he throws water at her. She becomes a giant like alligator and then he puts like this obnoxious like rod or stick in the alligator's mouth. So like they go back and forth that way for a while. And then eventually the little creatures that Mordo had created to sort of watch Doctor Strange, they end up noticing them. And both Doctor Strange and Mim are like, well, this isn't good. They end up, it looks like just as these weird creatures that Mordo has control over starts to take over Mim, last minute she goes, okay, here, you can now have access to my secret vault with all of my special, like, witch voodoo objects in order to sort of help defeat these things. And basically, by the time they reveal the door to this vault and step in, they say, nothing quite like superhero banter to make me miss the... Oh, wait. It's a magic vault is housed in a pocket dimension. So she reveals this little pocket dimension, and it is stocked. Like, there's, like, cow skulls, there's, like, a monkey paw in a jar, there's all kinds of, like, weird ancient-looking weapons. And just before, while everybody's browsing around, just before someone, like anybody can touch anything on the wall, Doctor Strange says, don't touch anything. Everything in here, like if we touch it or use it, it is going to come at a price. And while he's in the middle of trying to figure out like some burden that the doctor himself could carry for everybody in order to be able to use one of these items, while he's trying to think of a creative way to get away with that, Wilson Fisk just picks up some weird alien skull and shoots and pretty much decimates the giant creatures or whatever that Mordo had sent after them. And while everybody's sitting there going, what did you just trade in order to be able to use this crazy weapon? He just goes, you're welcome. And then there's like this weird magical fire coming out of Wilson Fisk's eyes. And that was kind of the end of the issue. Okay. So Fisk might have part of his soul traded away for something. I'm not quite sure. But it looks like things are escalating.
Yeah, we shall definitely see.
Mm.
Okay. So that was your book for the week, but you want to go ahead?
That's all she had.
Yeah, we will just go ahead and move over to Travis. Travis, you have a new series this week. Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, right?
Yes. Brand new, issue number 1. And first things first, let me tell you, I am extremely excited to be back with good old Peter. I like Spider-Man for a lot of reasons, but one of them is Peter is just the funniest guy around. I love his humor. While I've been talking about Peter in Renew Your Vows and
the traditional Amazing Spider-Man, right?
Yeah. In Amazing, it's, in the future, he's grown up, he's a little different. Still has his humor, but it's not all there. And then in Renew Your Vows, it's got a lot more serious tone because he's out there, training his daughter to be a superhero, and also he's, with Mary Jane, his wife, so he's not as jokey.
Yeah.
I've come back to this. This feels like this is old Spider-Man. Like he's still the web-slinging New York jokester, and I'm loving it.
Okay, cool.
The entirety of him reading this issue, he giggled the whole time.
Okay.
That's how much he was enjoying it.
Yes. So at the start of the issue, he's hanging out with Johnny Storm, who they make reference to the fact that he's not with the Fantastic Four anymore. He's now just the Human Torch, and he's out on his own.
Yeah, last I heard, I thought he was out in space doing stuff, but that might be Ben that was doing that. I don't remember.
I don't know, but apparently him and Peter are good friends. They're hanging out, they're chatting about responsibility and all this stuff, and then he kind of swings off to go do Spider-Man things because he's Spider-Man, right? Yeah. As he's swinging, he interrupts a burglary and saves a woman named Rebecca. I've forgotten her last name. And she kind of starts to hit on him as Spider-Man, which is funny. And she gives him her phone number and says, "You should call me sometime." Anyway, during this burglary interruptus, he comes across a Stark phone. I don't know what a Stark phone is. Obviously, it's a phone with Stark tech in it.
Oh.
And he says, "This is weird. This thing's been hacked. I thought these were unhackable." So he runs into Ant-Man, who takes him to meet the Mason, who is apparently the Tinkerer's younger brother. The Tinkerer being one of Spider-Man's oldest enemies. He makes a lot of supervillain tech. Oh. He's the origin of the Scorpion and a couple of other dudes. Too many to list. Anyway, so the Mason and his assistant, who's named Uatu Jackson, who seems to be a friend of Spider-Man. I don't know who that is. Sorry, guys. They figure out that... I'm
actually looking it up, so I'll let you know as soon as I can.
Okay. They find out that the phone has been hacked, and the origin of the hack is Chicago. So Spider-Man grabs a quick plane to fly out to Chicago to figure out what's going on and what this is all about. When he gets there, he's attacked by... because he tracks the signal of another hacked phone, and he's attacked by Iron Man? Or a dude who looks like Iron Man. And it kind of ends there.
Okay. So, Uatu, real quick, he works for Horizon Labs, and he seems to have been one of Dr. Octopus's assistants back in the day. But he doesn't seem to be, like, a majorly relevant character of his own. Like, he's not a super dude.
No, he seems to be a tech genius.
Yeah,
which is why he was working with
the lab assistant in a bunch of different storylines, it seems.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that feels like a great ending, but this book decided to give us 2 cliffhangers.
Okay, so it kind of ended, but then it gave you this secondary story?
Yeah, it gave you 2 more pages. It cuts back to Johnny, who Peter was supposed to meet to go to a movie, But Peter, ended up having to go off to Chicago and fight crime.
Yeah.
And he gets mad and he says, "Darn it, Parker, not again." And then a woman walks up behind him and says, "Are you looking for Peter Parker?" And he says, "Yeah, why?" And she says, "Well, I'm his sister." And then it ends there.
Ooh.
Fun.
So
more soap opera drama.
Ooh.
Yeah, or
I'm in
she's
it.
just a clone.
I'm in it.
Because, his clones like to call themselves his brother,
that would still be soap opera drama.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Fantasy soap opera.
Well, it's cool that they're using
Sci-fi.
Johnny, definitely. I saw online somewhere they might be bringing back some, not necessarily Fantastic Four, but I saw a picture of the Thing with the number 2 on his belt instead of the number 4, so maybe Thing comes back and he and Johnny do some stuff together soon. But
That'd be cool.
I don't know. Cool. So Peter
Or
Parker,
he's going to turn into a supervillain and they're going to call themselves the Terrible Two.
that could be a thing. Cool. So Peter Parker, that sounds fun. I mean, number 1s are always kind of light on details because they gotta give you a lot to get you started.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's
Also, is that a mustard stain on his shirt there?
That's what it looks like. Whenever he's hanging out with Johnny, they're eating shawarma.
Oh, okay.
They actually say that. I'm pretty sure that's a joke back to the was that the Avengers movie where at the end they said something about like, "Oh God, I could go for some shawarma or something,"
that's kind of cute.
Yeah, I think that's why they were eating shawarma.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. So Travis, your other book, not Spider-Man, but you covered number 1 for us. So tell us about Luke Cage number 2.
So last time, if you remember, the book ended with.
It was a long time ago, so I don't remember actually.
Yeah, I believe this is once a month. So yeah, it was about a month ago. Luke had gone down to New Orleans to go to the funeral of, I want to say his creator, the scientist, Bernstein. To go to Bernstein's funeral. He was approached by Dr. Mornay. Yeah, Mornay, Bernstein's assistant, and then she was quickly kidnapped, and Luke Cage and him and all of his unbreakable skin was slashed to bits by a creepy sword man.
Okay.
So, he was picked up by his psycho brother. Well, brother. I know you can't see me finger quoting, but I'm pretty sure you can hear me.
I wish you could hear air quotes more.
Finger quotey brother.
Tanner. And this book starts with Tanner and him rushing back to Tanner's house, where Tanner, fixes him up real good.
Okay.
Tanner then proceeds to explain to him that Bernstein made a whole lot more people like them. They are also psychotic murderers like Tanner, but for some reason Tanner's not acting like a psychotic murderer. Well, him and these other guys go to explain that Bernstein has developed a gas that, when inhaled, calms them for a period and makes them, normal guys. Yeah, Matt, that's Warhawk. That is Mitchell Tanner. That's his supervillain name.
Okay. I was just checking because I was curious. With the Luke Cage has a TV show that's pretty current right now on Netflix, and there's some drama with a brother in that one. I don't want to necessarily spoil it for those who haven't watched the show, but there's some drama with a brother in that one. I was trying to see if that was the same character or not. So,
okay,
but I don't think it is. For those of you who have or have not seen the show.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, okay, that's where I was. So, there's a gas, they inhale it. It's in an inhaler formula, sort of like a meter dose inhaler, just, like asthma people take. And so they've sort of found a cure, but the problem is now is Bernstein's dead, And there's, tons of these guys who are relying on this gas to not turn into psychotic killers, all of which have unbreakable skin. So then Tanner and Luke decide to head over to Mateo Corello. He's a crime lord in New Orleans. Head over to his house because him and Bernstein were apparently working on something together. When they get there, Mateo Corello comes flying out of the window, crashes into their car, and is very obviously beyond dead.
Oh,
so
no.
They're like, oh dear, what was that? But meanwhile, what's been going on with Mateo Corello, he is the one who kidnapped Dr. Mornay. And he strong-armed her into helping him find out how to make more of that gas to sane-ify the people. Because his son is one of those patients who he did those medical experiments on. And without the gas, his son is going to turn into an unstoppable murder machine. So she tinkers around a bit, makes a gas, and when he inhales it, he turns blue-skinned, just like Mitchell Tanner, and enters a murderous frenzy. That is what causes his dad, Mateo, to go flying out the window. Splat.
He
Yes.
turns blue-skinned, you said?
Blue skin. His skin turns blue, a pale blue.
Interesting.
Yeah. Just like Mitchell Tanner, by the way, who all of the other patients all have regular skin tones. A lot of them are African American. Actually, the more I think about it, I don't think there were any white people. I believe they all looked African American or Hispanic. I mean, like Luke, he's also an African American. Maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
A lot of this is trying to have some social commentary, and Luke was originally experimented on when he was in prison, so it could possibly be something to do with social commentary of minorities being majority within prisons, usually.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know.
Also, they're in New Orleans now, and New Orleans has a very high African American population.
Yeah.
Having lived near there for a long period of time, I'm speaking from experience. You still do, so yeah. Anyway, to wrap things up, he turned blue, and the very last page, I was about to say panel, no, it's an entire page, is Corello's son, all blue-skinned and everything, charging at Luke and Mitchell Tanner. And it says, to be continued.
Okay.
I assume the next issue will have a whole lot of punching.
Yeah.
Since this one literally had...
Sorry, I couldn't find next issue.
I hear Siri thought you said something to her, and so did mine, actually, just now.
That's why I don't turn that on.
It's when I said, assuming.
Don't say it again.
Well, I wanted to see if it happened again. It's interesting.
All right.
One time it triggered off the word serious, which sort of makes sense.
Yeah. Well, good deal. I can't believe it, but we've actually already blown through all of our comic books that we were covering this week. Yeah.
If you want me to go over last week's that I missed, I can, or I can just briefly go over them when they get another issue.
I think that would be a little better.
Yeah, I'll just wait till they get another issue and just kind of breeze through the one that we missed.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. I haven't really thought about that, and we didn't prepare for all of your other issues, so maybe we'll do that. That sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah.
That'll help us.
Because I do want to talk
momentum
about
with
that
these
Squirrel
as
Girl,
well.
because I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. But that's a once a month, so that'll be a while before we get that one. If you want to cover that one next week, we might do that. I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go. That's kind of what we do here, is we just enjoy it, we have fun, and we figure it out when we figure it out. Devin might cover his books next week. He might cover them the next time that they come out with an issue, you know? But he will probably be back next week, so we're good there. As far as this week, let's go ahead and start closing out, but we will... I'll go ahead and I'll start out with the question that we always ask. We We always ask, like, which books did somebody else read, and they gave us a synopsis that you would want to read. I personally really am getting more interested in Luke Cage. I don't know if I said that last time for issue number 1.
I think you did.
Yeah.
Pretty sure you did.
Like I mentioned the TV show, the Netflix TV show. I really enjoyed it. I know some people did and some people didn't, but I really enjoyed the TV show. So I'm kind of gaining some interest in this character. I would read Luke Cage. Yeah. How about you guys? Which title did somebody else read that you would read?
Well, as somebody who always prefers the lighter, well, not necessarily the lighter end of things, but whenever I hear like classic old school Spider-Man going on, I love that kind of thing going on there. So I would definitely, especially because it's the first issue too.
Yeah.
I definitely want to give that one a look at too.
Number 1s are easy to get into.
Yeah. Well, everybody else picked my books, and I guess I don't get the chance to pick one of mine, so I have to be different. No, to be honest, I think I would be interested in XMen Gold, just because Gambit's always been my favorite mutant.
Yeah, he did have a little spotlight. Not a big part, but a little spotlight in this one. But
I've hoped and hoped beyond everything that in some of those crazy movies they make. He gets a big part. I think he was like briefly shown in one of them. I vaguely remember that, but I don't think he actually did anything in it.
Yeah,
I think someone just called him Remy, and you're like, oh, that's who that is.
It was one of the worst of the X-Men movies. It was the Wolverine origin movie that he actually had a major supporting role. But people don't really remember it because that movie was kind of terrible.
Is that the one where they had the Deadpool and they closed his mouth or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah.
Deadpool literally became the Merc without a mouth.
Yes, they took it away from him.
Yes. Why taking away Ryan Reynolds' mouth is a good idea, I don't know. But yeah, cool. Well. I think that'll wrap it up for us for this week. As always, like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. If you leave us some comments and I get word of them, then I might bring it up in next week's show. We can answer questions. We can read new books. Your comments, if you liked some of our books, let us know. Or if you didn't like them, let us know. Tell us what we should be reading. All that good stuff. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. And I think that'll wrap it up for this week. Guys, got anything else to say?
No, pretty much good.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for watching, and we shall see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.